you for inviting me tonight to be part of this. Tonight is very, very special for me. It's May 9th. And May 9th, 9 years ago, was Mother's Day. And my mother was nifter at the end of Mother's Day at 11 o'clock in the evening on that Sunday. And I can promise you that the one thing my mother wanted from me, almost more than anything, was to get up and speak. And this is what she encouraged when I was in high school, that and taking the typing course. And believe me, it's the only two things, the speaking and the typing course, that turned out to be useful at all in all of high school. So, Mommy, thank you. And of course, because any rising and shining is always on the shoulders of our ancestors, I have to start with two stories, one from my mother and one from my father, on this topic of bending belief. Beliefs that keep us back. Okay, so the story goes like this. Circa 1930, it's the Great Depression. My mom's a little girl. She's about 9, 10 years old. And the family is poor. They've immigrated from Odessa. They divide up a chicken among the six of them. My grandmother eats the back. You know, they don't have a lot of money. But my mother gets a nickel for car fare to take the bus from wherever they're living to wherever she needs to go to elementary school. But my mom's tough and she's shrewd, and it's the Depression. And so when she has enough time, she walks it and pockets the nickel. So she's saving her nickels. And the thing that my mother loves more than anything else is a good meal. And that was true from the time she was a little girl through her entire life. Hashem never took that away from her. She loved and enjoyed food, and she saved her nickels until she finally had 25 cents. And she went to the deli with so much thrill and excitement, this chesed, this pure life force coming through her, and so pleased with her strategic intervention of this saving to success. And she sits down and she orders a steak sandwich, and she can't wait for this thing to come. Her mouth is watering, and just like any phenomenal visual creative manifestation moment, the waitress comes and presents her with her food. And it's not a steak sandwich. It's a T-bone steak platter with French fries. And my mother, who is a true believer in life force, cannot believe her luck. Oh my gosh, this is how they give a steak sandwich at this deli? This is beyond amazing. And she tucks in to this steak, polishes it off, the French fries, the whole thing, and she is more than happy. Until that dreadful moment, the bill came. And the bill said, T-bone steak dinner, $1.25. And she looks at this bill and she knows she cannot pay this bill. And she also knows she cannot contact home and let anybody know that she got herself into this predicament. There is no dollar to pay this bill. And somehow she sneaks out of this restaurant and runs home. And terrified that her parents should ever find out about this event. What happens? Absolutely nothing bad happens as a result of this event, because she didn't counter-create with the two most dangerous beliefs that most of us carry around constantly, which is one, it's my fault, I'm not enough, I screwed up, I did something terribly wrong here. Never crossed her mind. Number two, life is hostile. This is a dangerous world. The waitress, she should have told me. How could she possibly think I could have paid for that meal? Nothing. She doesn't believe in any of this. And she goes on for her entire life to continue saving her money and eating out in restaurants and enjoying every moment of every meal she ever had. The end. Fast forward 10 years. We find my father in a Polish concentration camp because for 4 years he is shuttled around to 12 different labor camps. And he also comes from a family that doesn't have a lot of money. And he, at this particular juncture, finds himself luckily in kitchen duty. And for some strange reason, the Nazi guard decides that he needs a push broom for this kitchen. And supplies are problematic. There are no push brooms, so they're in trouble. But my father kind of waves a hand and says, I know how to make a push broom. If you give me the materials, I'll make one. And so my father, who at this point is in his early 30s, he's not a child, and he's learned this craft. He asks for precisely twice the amount of the materials he needs to make a push broom. The Nazi procures the materials. He puts 2 push brooms together. One he presents back to the guard, and the other one he goes to the fence and barters for butter. And with this butter, he returns back to the kitchen and he bakes a cake. And he survives yet another little bit longer because there are a lot of calories in butter. And it works. It's a nice story. These are the stories that I was raised on about the Holocaust. There once was a Nazi and I got twice the amount of things to make the broom, and then I got butter and made a cake. It took me until I was 12 to find out that concentration camps were a really bad thing. I was very shocked when I read Exodus and Treblinka to find out what the Holocaust was. Very shocked. Because the way my father told the story was full of this jubilant, strategic intervention kind of pleasure of the moment where that chesed, together with the limitation, the gvura that presented, just found him in this perfect moment of salvation. And he enjoyed it. And he enjoyed the way the whole thing worked out. And that's the stories he presented me, because he also didn't have my 2 favorite negative personal beliefs that keep us from rising and shining, which is A, I'm not enough, or B, life is hostile. Neither of my parents also had the tricky other side of the coin limiting belief. On the one hand, we've got I'm nothing. On the other hand, which is kind of a big fear and a limitation, a shadow of gvura. On the other hand, neither were plagued with the shadow of chesed, which is to fall into fantasy, that not only are they not nothing, but that somehow they're God. They never thought that either. And so when we're looking to bend a belief, we're looking both to start with that place of fear, but also where the opposite or extreme of that fear can fall into fantasy, and so we kind of lose any possibility to move forward. So technique number 1 that I dedicate to my parents is an adaptation of emotional freedom of tapping, the tapping technique. How many people know tapping? Tapping, we're familiar. Okay. I'm an acupuncturist, so, and I'm telling you, it works without tapping on the points. The points are a nice addition. They are not even absolutely necessary, because the main point is to simultaneously hold the movement of gvura with the movement of chesed to come to the perfect moment of tiferet, which is where we are tonight, tiferet shebetiferet, which is this perfect balance point. And that balance point of tiferet shebetiferet, which every sphera connects to, and connects up back to da'as. That's why it works, because it clears da'as. Tiferet, in a healthy tiferet, clears belief, clears da'as. So we get something like this. Even though I ordered a steak sandwich and got the T-bone steak dinner, I deeply and completely accept myself and choose to stay open to life. So everybody, can we say that together? Even though I ordered the steak sandwich and got the T-bone steak and ate it, I deeply and completely accept myself and choose to stay open to life. Even though I was embarrassed and humiliated and I made a big mistake, I deeply and completely accept myself and choose to stay open to life. Everyone. Even though I'm embarrassed and made a big mistake, I deeply and completely accept myself and choose to stay open to life. Even though I find myself in a concentration camp and I don't know if I'm going to survive, I deeply and completely accept myself and choose to stay open to life. Even though I find myself in a concentration camp and I don't know if I'm going to survive, I deeply and completely accept myself and I choose to stay open to life. Okay, so EFT, I suggest it whether or not you find do 20 to tap and you're tapping on the right places, and with tapping, without tap. The tapping it's nice because you can kind of feel these energy blocks in your body, and they do move, the tapping moves it through nicely. But the main point is to hold that balance simultaneously of the movement of chesed, I deeply and completely accept myself, and the movement of the gvura, the accepted limitation, the radical, absolute comfort with the limitations that life presents. Radical challenge and limitation potentiates radical transformation. Part 1. We keep moving forward now. I believe this moment of Tiferet is almost like that physics moment of a figure skater, the spin. We've got all that momentum, chesed, coming through, that flow. But we've got one point, and we've got that small radius which creates the spin and the velocity. And that, I think, is what Tiferet is. The beauty, the balance, the power of the spin, of the momentum of life with a stricture, with a limitation, with something that holds it in, that creates power and beauty. So we're going to visualize a bit this spin. And in that spin, I believe that the belief that we're working on next is that it's not hoping I'm going to become something. It's not wishing I'm going to become something. It's not wondering or fearing. It is, in fact, a moment of decision. I make a decision, and I believe Tiferet is the moment that we decide to do something. For many years, I was an avid Weight Watchers lady. I went to meetings, and my favorite thing about Weight Watchers was listening to everyone's story of the moment when they decided, that moment of decision when something was going to be different, the moment before action, because what's going to come after Tiferet is, on the one hand, we're going to have this netzach, which is perseverance. And believe me, there's nothing that you're going to rise and shine and do unless you persevere, unless you stay. We're going to do it in a moment. We're going to move into netzach shebetiferet. This idea of perseverance has to be. And on the other hand, there's going to be hod, which is really the surrender and the gratitude. That without that, we also can't bring anything into becoming. But Tiferet shebetiferet, where we are today, is the technique called decision. So our technique number 2 for tonight, I call it the declaration of decision. And I'm kind of sharing and adapting a technique that I read in Barbara Ann Brennan, a very famous energy healer, and she's quoting Eva Paranikos, and she claimed, you say this mantra, this is a mantra, say this thing, and you become yourself. And I've been saying it as part of my tune-up before I enter session for almost 15 years. And it works, I think it works very nicely. I think it jives amazingly with Yiddishkeit, and I adapt it like this. So technique, declaration of decision, tiferet, decision. I commit to Ratzon Hashem. I give my heart and soul to Hashem. I am deserving of the best of Hashem's blessings. I am serving Hashem's highest purpose. I am a divine manifestation of Hashem. Now, let's just review. I am not Hashem. I'm not Hashem. I can't do anything. And with all due respect to Tony Robbins, he has everybody walk through the fire. My father took stuff out of the oven without mitts. So, if you're tough, you're really tough stuff. We don't want to fall into that fantasy that, in fact, that anything is possible, that we're God, but God is God. So that's really good. So how we harness power here is that we kind of harness to Ratzon Hashem, but it's only when we have already decided, we've made that decision what we want, we've made that decision how life is going to be different, we make that decision about what we really want, and that's different from wanting and desiring, it's deciding. Remember the old machines, asimonim? There used to be an Israeli expression that asimon nofel, that click of an asimon. Now, alas, we no longer have that fun thing anymore in our life. There's that moment of click when we're really, as the Hasidic sources paint Tiferet as that moment, that location between the ocean, which is usually seen as chesed, and the landmass, which is seen as gevura. Now, of course, you can flip it, and sometimes the sources do. But the idea is that we're finding ourselves in a location, in a space that you have to decide, that you have to become. And here, if you need power behind you, the very powerful thing to do is actually to commit to Ratzon Hashem, because under those circumstances, almost anything is possible. Technique number 2. Number 3.
Can you repeat the
Thank you very much. Absolutely. I commit to the will of God. I give my heart and soul to God. I am deserving of God's best blessings. I am serving of God's highest purpose. I am a divine manifestation of Hashem. Which brings us moving into technique and idea number 3. Becoming and manifesting is actually not so difficult because our very essence is a mechanism of manifestation. We are created b'dmut and tselem Elokim. That means, according to the Nefesh HaChaim and others, that we are massively, incredibly creative beings, both affecting this world and the higher worlds. That's what it means. Tselem Elokim means you are a creator. You are this mechanism of the way Hashem creates. We get the shadow, we get the idea, kind of that X-ray. We are creators as well. We are creators as we remember that we're really a chain link. Neshama, ruach, nefesh, into guf. Like a ladder, like Sulam Yaakov. Up and down, information, becoming, light, going up and going down. It's a chain link affair. You can never blow it that badly. You can only blow out your nefesh. You can never blow out your neshama. You're not that powerful. You can't do anything that badly because that divine light can always come back through this holy manifestation mechanism that is you. It's not almost you. It's not I wish it was me. It is you. If you exist, your existence is, in fact, a manifestation mechanism. That's what you're doing here. Basically, we try to stay out of our own way. In other words, it's not so much that we have to work so hard, but that when I speak about bending a belief, it's about identifying and releasing what's blocking that natural flow, because you becoming yourself, it's happening. Look around. It's not happening on another side of the planet. If you see what's going on in your life, you will find your desire. You will find what's opening up. It's not far. Lo b'shamayim you are connected. So one of my favorite techniques, if this is in fact true, is in moving from this declaration of decision, which can also be an excellent mantra. It's Oprah Winfrey's mantra. Ever wonder how that woman managed to get that far in life? I've often wondered. This is her mantra. I manifest the life that I was meant to lead. I love it. I say it also in every tune-up. I manifest the life that I was meant to lead. Why actually, from a Torah point of view, we can even say this mantra or believe it is because, in fact, we are a holy manifestation mechanism. So when we decide, and that decision is symbolized by this mantra, in other words, we say it, we declare it out loud in dibur, words, very important. That resonates. That we don't have a belief that's getting in the way. Things begin to flow. The third most powerful thing to know when we want things to flow, when we want to rise and shine and do whatever it is we want to do and be ourselves, is an extremely powerful technique called silence. Pause to drink water. Since, in fact, you are a holy mechanism of manifestation, and you are utterly and totally, innately connected to the Bria, it is very helpful, if you could manage to do this once a day, to be aware and silent for 10 minutes. Because 10 minutes of silence unifies your field of intention with God's field of intention, and things flow way better. Now, so the technique I want to share is one of the easiest, fastest ways to get into silence and peacefulness in our increasingly noisy, distracted, high-tech, hard to do this thing. So I call it the three breath technique, and it goes like this. We breathe in through the nose very strongly. We breathe out through the mouth very strongly. And not a foof, a ha, open-throated hey, ha, h, ha. We do that 3 times as strong as we can, and then after the third exhale, nothing. You pause. You pause, and you wait to be ventilated. You wait till God remembers to breathe you. And then, when that happens, gently and naturally, you just watch your breath there. Let's try it. Let's see how that goes. We'll take a look at it on the other side. Okay, 3 breaths. In through the nose. Out. In. Out. In. Get ready. Out. sensations of how we felt in that breath? Anybody? What happens there? What?
Sort of a little surrender after the 3 breaths of like, God's taking over. I'm going to continue to breathe unconsciously because God is breathing.
Something surrender. Anybody else? What?
Kind of like restarting the computer.
Reset button on the computer. Exactly. It's in my notes. You read my notes. It's okay. I forgive you this time. Very good.
After the second natural breath, I panicked.
This, by the way, happens all the time. All the time. It's okay. Some people panic. In other words, we'll hold that one. We'll get back there. How else did we feel?
That life is the most powerful thing within us.
You felt the power of life in you, and you had that realization. A realization there. What else did it, anybody else, what else did it, just kind of the experience of it was pleasant, not pleasant? Pleasant. Peaceful.
Like a letting go.
Release.
Focus, release of thought, like just.
Focus, release of thought.
Yeah, I usually, if I try not to think, then that definitely doesn't work, and I really was totally just in the breath.
That worked. In other words, that worked
yeah.
for you better than.
It was definitely strong enough.
Okay.
That
So the technique, I'm not forgetting about you. The technique is based on, first we do this big controlling breath, and we take in a lot of oxygen. You just control it as much as you can. Then finally, that exhale, this deathless, breathless state, usually can create on the spot a very nice sense of surrender, of release, of peacefulness. It doesn't take long to get there, and then just as you watch your breath and don't do anything special after that, you can maintain that. If this thing happens called some panic comes up, if you can, you want to stay with yourself there and ask yourself, is anything bothering me? Is anything bothering me? Because that panic is an important sign that control was released, and there is some belief or fear about something that could happen or will happen if I let go of control at this moment. And that's beautiful to find that, and you just want to stay with yourself there and go, gee, something bothering me? And just very gentle, very loving. That's that. Okay, so what did we do in this little presentation today? We looked at the 2 major limiting beliefs, which is that I'm not enough, something version of I'm not okay, and large limiting belief number 2, life is hostile, which includes people are hostile or things are dangerous. And believing this and thinking this is a showstopper. Stops the mechanism. We looked at EFT as a way to just, if we've got something negative, we can always bring in the negative. We can harness the negative as the gvura. Bring in the chesed, hold it together, move into tiferet. Technique number 2 is declaration of decision. I commit to the will of God. Those sentences wrapped up with that statement. I manifest the life that I was meant to lead. And then finally, the idea that if our mind can quiet and we can get out of our own way because we are, in fact, a holy mechanism of manifestation, that move into silence and quiet can make beautiful things happen. Thank you so much for listening and letting me share with you this evening.